It was a cold autumn night, and I was driving along Route 66, heading home after visiting a friend for his birthday in a distant town. The road was deserted, only the hum of the engine and the occasional whisper of wind accompanied me. I remember feeling somewhat tired, my eyes heavy from the long day. Although darkness had set in, I was determined to reach home before midnight. Suddenly, in the distance, I saw the back figure of a woman walking, holding what appeared to be a newborn baby wrapped in a blanket. Initially, I felt apprehensive due to the eerie stories one hears about picking up strangers on the road. However, against my better judgment, I decided to stop upon seeing a woman with a baby who likely needed assistance. As I pulled up beside them, I rolled down the window slightly and asked if she needed a ride. Just then, I heard the howl of an animal that made me turn completely in the opposite direction, searching for the source of the noise. When I turned back, the woman and her baby were already seated beside me in the passenger seat. That's when things began to feel off. The woman had a pale complexion and eyes so sunken they seemed to pierce right through me. Her clothing looked outdated, reminiscent of another era. I tried to strike up a conversation, asking her where she was headed, but she remained silent, gazing ahead at the road. She merely nodded for me to keep driving, and once again, I felt a knot in my stomach, accompanied by an unsettling feeling that something was amiss. In an attempt to ease the eerie silence, I turned on the radio, reassuring myself that everything was fine. I tried conversing with the mysterious woman, commenting on how chilly the night felt while stealing glances at her from the corner of my eye. She kept her gaze fixed on the road, clutching the blanket-wrapped bundle tightly. The blanket piqued my curiosity even more, wondering if there was indeed a baby inside. In one of these distracted moments, as I turned my gaze away from the road, the woman let out a piercing scream, pointing ahead. Instinctively, I slammed on the brakes, looking forward to see an old-fashioned stroller in the middle of the road. Startled and bewildered, I mustered the courage to step out of the car and inspect the stroller, only to find it empty, save for a baby blanket identical to the one the woman had been holding. Confused and alarmed, I returned to the car, only to find the woman gone. A chilling sensation coursed through my body, and before I knew it, I was back in the car, speeding away, desperate to escape that terrifying scene. But the horror didn't end there. Even today, whenever I see a woman holding a baby, I'm reminded of that terrifying moment and the dangers of nighttime road travel. You never know who or what might be lurking in the darkness of the night.
This happened a few years ago, during a cross-country road trip. I found myself driving through the desolate areas of Nevada. Miles of arid desert and open road stretched before me, interrupted only by the occasional dilapidated building or roadside attraction. As I returned from a meeting and dusk approached, I decided it was time to find a place to rest. Just as I was resigning myself to sleeping in my car, I spotted a faded sign for a motel up ahead, the Moonlight Inn. Upon arrival, the place seemed frozen in time, old and neglected. Exhausted, I parked on the gravel lot. The motel was a relic of a bygone era, its once vibrant neon sign now a dim reminder of better days. With some hesitation, I grabbed my small suitcase and entered the lobby. The air inside was stale, heavy with the smell of mold and decay. A dusty old bell sat on the counter, and as I rang it, a chilling echo reverberated through the empty hallways. After what felt like an eternity, an elderly man emerged from the shadows, his eyes clouded with age. Without much interaction, he checked me in, handing me a rusty key and pointing towards the last room. The key felt cold and heavy, but I thanked him and proceeded down the dimly lit corridor, recalling with a hint of amusement those horror movies featuring eerie motels. Upon entering the room, a musty odor greeted me. The furnishings were worn, and the wallpaper was peeling, revealing layers of old paper underneath. Exhausted, I settled onto the creaky bed, hoping to catch a few hours of sleep before continuing my journey. However, that night turned into a nightmare. Just as I was drifting off, unsettling noises filled the air, whispers from the walls, footsteps in the hallway, and loud laughter from the adjacent room, preventing me from resting. Frustrated, I decided to confront the noisy guests. Yet, each time I approached my door, the sounds ceased immediately, leading me to believe their party had ended. But moments later, the noises resumed with even greater intensity. Determined, I headed to the reception, convinced someone was playing tricks on me. I confronted the elderly man, demanding he ask the guests next door to quiet down. To my surprise, he informed me that the adjacent room was under repair due to plumbing issues and had been vacant. Despite his reluctance, I insisted on seeing for myself. Reluctantly, he led me to the room. Opening the door, it was evident the room was uninhabited, with a foul odor from the plumbing issue. Confused, I searched for another building that could explain the sounds, but only found an abandoned lot behind my room, with the nearest structure over 200 meters away. Filled with dread, I hastily packed my belongings and fled to my car, determined to escape the cursed place and vowing never to return. I drove non-stop, desperate to reach home, haunted by the memory of that night at the roadside motel. Even now, weeks later, I find myself avoiding the walls of my own home.
Driving alone on a remote desert road, Tom glanced at the fuel gauge and felt a twinge of concern. The gas needle hovered dangerously close to me, and the next town was still miles away. His fingers nervously tapped on the steering wheel as he scanned the barren landscape for any sign of a gas station or rest stop. As minutes turned into hours, Tom's anxiety grew. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate asphalt. Just as he was about to resign himself to spending the night in his car due to lack of fuel, a dimly lit sign appeared in the distance, a lone gas station, seemingly out of place in this remote stretch of desert. Relief washed over Tom as he entered the station. The soft glow of overhead lights created an eerie ambience that seemed to amplify the surrounding silence. The air was still, devoid of the usual hum of activity one would expect at a gas station. With a sense of unease, Tom stepped out of his car, the gravel crunching beneath his feet as he approached the pump. As he inserted his credit card into the reader, a cold gust of wind swept through the station, extinguishing the flickering overhead lights and plunging the area into darkness. A sense of dread washed over Tom, his instinct screamed at him to flee. But before he could react, laughter echoed through the night, sending chills down his spine. Fumbling for his phone, Tom activated the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a haunting sight, a figure standing at the edge of the station, its form obscured by shadows, its laughter echoing with malicious intent. Without hesitation, Tom jumped into his car, slamming the door shut and locking the windows. As he sped away from the gas station, the figure's laughter faded, but a lingering sense of unease remained. For hours, Tom drove through the night, the unsettling encounter on the desert roads forever etched in his memory. Though he eventually reached safety, the terror he experienced served as a chilling reminder of the unpredictability of the road and the indescribable horrors that can unfold in the most isolated places.